The Roadster, I think you announced this when you announced the IPO, that the Roadster was going to go dark for a while. Did you intend to come, there's going to be a period where you can't buy a Roadster, but you intend to come back with a new Roadster, which would be more an in-house design?
Well,
if you got Franz, you might as well use them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I should point out that the design of the current Roadster was, it depends what you mean by design. As far as the styling of the current Roadster, I mean, I was the guy that directly oversaw the styling of the current Roadster. Obviously, there were some constraints in that we were using an adapted or a highly modified Elise chassis, and we were using the Elise, the glass house of the Elise, so the windscreen, side windows, and that kind of thing. But apart from that, all the body panels are different from any other car on the road. And I spent a lot of time personally on that design. So, in fact, I got some awards for it. So,
I didn't mean to imply the Lotus with batteries.
Right.
But
exactly.
If you have a clean sheet of paper, you might make it look pretty different. Is there likely to be a totally new Roadster? I understand all your resources are on the Model S right now.
Right. I want to be clear that there are zero resources on any new Roadster, and our focus in terms of in-house vehicles is almost entirely on the Model S. I mean, there's a small amount of resources, sustaining resources on the current Roadster, but apart from that, it's all in the Model S. And the next priority after the Model S is not actually a new Roadster, it's actually an SUV, or crossover SUV.
Have you said that before?
I have said that. I've said that before. I'm not sure it's necessarily been picked up. I said that during the Roadster.
Because I knew that the next one was supposed to be even more affordable than the Model S.
No, there's variations on the Model S platform.
Oh, okay.
The SUV.
Oh, yes. You have said that there were variations on the Model S.
Yeah.
Including an SUV.
Right. So the SUV variants on the Model S platform, that's something we'll probably unveil as soon as next year, from a design standpoint. And that would be the next product to come from Tesla after the Model S would be that crossover SUV variant on the Model S platform, which I think is an important. Some people they only want to buy something that's sort of an SUV class vehicle. So I think that's kind of an important next step. I mean, even though from a personal standpoint, I think I would like to be personally more excited about the next generation Roadster. I think the right thing to do for the company is the SUV, and so that's what we're going to do.
And isn't there also a new model, the really affordable one, that probably is a cocktail napkin sketch right now?
Well, there's our third generation platform, which is what will follow from the Model S platform. And that third generation platform would be a smaller wheelbase. If you think of the Model S like the equivalent of a BMW 5 or 7 Series, so the Model S is slightly bigger than a 5 Series. That's the size of the vehicle, or perhaps comparable to an Audi A6 A8 or a Mercedes E-Class CLS. The third generation platform will be more of a mass market vehicle, more closer to, say, a BMW 3 Series or an Audi A4.
And when's the target date for that?
In the best of all possible worlds, we'd start production on that in 2014. I'll be very disappointed if we're not in production with that by 2015. 5 years is a long time.
If we're thinking of what it might look like as a design with the 3 Series or the Audi A4, would they be sort of guidelines? It might look something like that.
No. It would be essentially you'd look closer to the Model S, and it would be the design language of the Model S will then flow. Just as you can tell that there's similarities between a 5 Series BMW and a 3 Series BMW. You'd be able to tell that the third generation vehicle from Tesla would have design language in line with the Model S. But it would be a smaller vehicle and more affordable, made in larger numbers. It would be probably a factor of 10 greater volume than the Model S.
What do you think that we're looking at next year? There's going to be a whole lot of more EVs on the road. Just before he went to Volvo, and that was Stefan Jacobi, and they're doing electric versions of the Jetta and the Golf. They have like 3 or 4 hybrids and electrics coming out, and just about every European automaker used to decry electric cars, and now
Right.
announcing them. It's very funny.
It is funny. Yeah, we were sort of a voice in the wilderness there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, there were certainly many predictions of Tesla's demise, and lots of announcements from the big OEMs of that you can't produce an electric car with any decent range and capability, and even if you did, people wouldn't buy them. And now those very same people are announcing electric vehicle models. So I'm glad to see that, actually. I mean, it's something that I predicted would occur, and it has occurred, and I'm glad to see it.
Some of them have actually had to rush them into production.
Yep.
It could be a little difficult. So you think that's actually good for business, that there'd be a lot of players on it? Increases awareness of what electric cars are, gives consumers more of an idea of electrifying the car?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, the reason I'm doing this is because I want the entire industry to transition to electric vehicles as soon as possible. Sooner is better. It's better for the economy. It's better for the environment. If I think about what is the fundamental good that can be achieved by Tesla, if you look at it from a historical context, the fundamental good is I'd like to be able to look back and say Tesla accelerated the transition from hydrocarbons to sustainable electric transport by at least 5 to 10 years. If we can look back and say that, I would be very happy. Because that's 5 to 10 years, less damage to the environment and less economic damage.
In some ways, I can see a parallel between you and Shai Agassi that way, in the sense that everybody said, well, we can't do this because you need this chicken and egg thing, right? You need charging stations to have an EV.
You don't need charging stations.
Yeah, you don't really, but a lot of people thought that.
They're wrong.
Okay, but he said, okay, I'll build charging stations. So he got off the dime the same way you did with building the car. I mean, you could look at it that way.
I'm not aware of any charging stations that Better Places used that any Tesla customers actually used.
Really? Not yet?
I'm not aware of them. If they are, I'm not aware of them.
You don't have cars in Israel?
We do have a few cars in Israel, so maybe there is one. Somebody using, I think there's 1 or 2 cars that have been imported to Israel, so maybe those cars are using Better Place charging stations.
If you look around, look at the competition, are there any that look particularly promising to you? Car makers that look like they're doing good work? I could throw out some names.
The honest answer is, I mean, it all depends on, my standard for really promising is a very high standard. So if you're asking me for my opinion of really promising, I would say no, there is not anything that's really promising. There are hopeful signs.